All right, so this is the worksheet pH and pOH. If you haven't yet looked over it in the notes, please do that first. So I think everybody's familiar with pH, the scale 0 to 14. The more your number is lower the number, that would be an acid, 7 being neutral, and larger, up to the larger numbers would be basic. Now notice how, according to this worksheet, they call 7 everything. Let's just say below 7 is acid, above 7 is base, and 7 is neutral, although it's a little hazier on there. So if that's the amount of hydrogen, the hydroxide, the OH, has to be the rest. Since H plus concentration and OH minus concentration equals 1 times 10 to the minus 14 at 25 degrees Celsius, that's room temperature, if you know the concentration of H plus, the OH minus can be calculated and vice versa. Now, this is not in the Regents. This is a little bit beyond the content of the general college prep class, but it's really not that hard, so, I could throw it in here. So here's our first example. Oh, before we get there, pH equals the negative log of the H plus. Not in the Regents, you won't have to solve for it this way, don't worry about it. pOH, same idea. So if H plus concentration is 10 to the minus 6, you take that exponent and you break it down and you just make it a positive 6. So your H plus concentration is 10 to the minus 6, your pH is 6. And you know pH scale. pH of 6 would be weak acid, slightly acidic, almost to neutral. Same idea here. If you know the OH minus concentration, 10 to the minus 8, you bring that exponent down, make it positive, pOH is 8. Now, pOH is not going to tell you acid or base because we only relate that to our pH scale. So together, they should equal that 14. Now it's time to look at this first example. If the H plus concentration is 10 to the minus 5 molar concentration, that means you take that, pH is 5. That means 5 plus 9 is going to give you 14, because remember, these always have to equal 14. And then how do you make that the concentration? You make it the negative exponent. And then this is determined by the pH column. Okay? All right, so let's just take it nice and slow. Here we go. All right, if your pH is 7, that means your H plus concentration is 10 to the minus 7. If your pH is 7, you already know this should be neutral. I know it says acid or base. It's neither. Now, if pH is 7, a number plus 7 has to give you 14. That's also 7. So if pH is 7, pOH is 7, OH minus has to be 10 to the minus 7. Do you see why, and this is molar. Let's just put it here so we don't have to keep writing it. Do you see how, if you're neutral, you have the same amount, same concentration of H plus as you do OH minus. That's why it's not an acid, it's not a base, it's right in the middle. Okay, if we have an OH minus concentration of 10 to the minus 4, that means your pOH is 4. That means 4 plus something's got to give me 14, which makes this a 10. If you've got a pH of 10, that's a base. If you have a pH of 10, that means the concentration is 10 to the minus 10 molar. If you have a concentration of 10 to the minus 2, that means your pH is 2. If your pH is 2, you should know that means acid. If your pH is 2, 2 plus X has to give you 14. That would be 12, which means your OH minus concentration has to be 10 to the minus 12. Notice that your exponents have to always add up to 10 to the minus 14. pH, pOH, and sorry I'm going kind of like all over the place. It's kind of like, for me, I see this, that means I can solve that, which means I can solve that. So I apologize for not being linear with this. If your pOH is 11, that means my OH minus concentration is 10 to the minus 11. If our pOH is 11, that means 11 plus blank has to give me 14. That's a 3. If your pH is 3, that means you're an acid. And that means your H plus concentration is 10 to the minus 3. Again, molar are units. There are no units for pH and pOH. pH is 12. That means this is 10 to the minus 12. pH is 12. That means this is a base. pH is 12, which means this has to be 2, because those two have to equal 14. And once I know that, I know this is 10 to the minus 2 molar. Okay? 10 to the minus 5 means pOH is 5. 5 plus blank has to give me 14, so that's a 9. pH of 9 is a base. pH of 9 means this is 10 to the minus 9 molar concentration. 10 to the minus 11 means our pH is 11. pH of 11 means you're a base. Excuse me. pH of 11 plus blank gives me 14. So it's 3. Which means our pOH is 3 and our OH minus concentration is 10 to the minus 3. If this is a 13, this has to be 10 to the minus 13. If this is 13, 13 plus X gives me 14. It's going to be a 1. If I know it's pH of 1, that's definitely an acid. pH of 1 means the H plus concentration is 10 to the minus 1. Last one, pH of 6. If I know if it's a pH of 6, it's an acid. It's not a very strong one, but it's still an acid. That means this is 10 to the minus 6. 6 plus blank has to give me 14. That's 8. And that means this is 10 to the minus 8. Okay? So, honors folks, you might see these formulas in SUPA or in Beyond. But as far as the Regents goes, I haven't seen that on there in a long time. College prep, regular Regents folks, don't worry about it. And hope that helps. Take care.